Monica from Ocean Protocol, and in this video, Alice is going to grant access to her data NFT to Bob. We'll follow the steps in the main flow README that lives in the READMEs directory of the ocean.py repo, and there are 3 steps to this tutorial. Step number 1, Alice publishes her dataset. So we have a dataset called Brannon dataset and a public-facing URL. In this case, the dataset is hosted on GitHub, and so we grab the raw GitHub URL for this dataset. And this will be encrypted throughout this process, but we are creating a data NFT, a data token, and a DDO all from that URL and name. So the data NFT and the DDO are related to one another. The DDO is called a decentralized identifier document. It's a fancy name for holding the metadata that relates to the data NFT. And the data token controls access to that data NFT. So actually, Alice is going to be selling the data tokens to purchasers who want access to the data NFT, to the data set in the data NFT. So I'm going to copy all of this chunk of code, and in the Python console that we ended with in the last video, I'm going to paste. And you'll see in some of the log output that you are encrypting, or that the URLs are, in this case, encrypted successfully. And once this is done, we'll see 3 print statements printing the addresses that refer to the 3 things that we are creating. So we'll just give this a moment. Okay, great. And I'm going to press enter to print that last print statement. So you can see that the data NFT was created, the address is printed here, and the data token similarly was also created at this address, and the DID. Now, I explained what a DDO is. A DID is the pointer to the DDO. It's a pointer to the document. It is a decentralized identifier which can be passed to a resolver, which will fetch that decentralized identifier document, the DDO holding the metadata. So great. Step 1 is done. In step 2, Bob gets access to the data set. And in this step, there's a lot of Python code here because we are testing 4 different approaches for Bob to get access to that data set via data tokens. Approach A, B, C, and D are all listed here. In A, Alice is going to mint the data token directly to Bob. In B, Alice will mint the data token to herself and then transfer it to Bob. Approach C is that Alice will create a faucet or a dispenser, if you'd rather, and this is going to dispense data tokens, and Bob can go to that dispenser or faucet and then grab a data token to gain access to that data NFT. And the last approach is that Alice actually sells the data token to Bob. And so D has a few more steps. You can see that approach D has 4 different steps. But for keeping things short, I'm going to copy and paste everything into the Python console and hit enter. And this is going to take a moment here to get through all the approaches. So just bear with me here. I'm seeing some good stuff. I'm seeing some transaction IDs. I'm seeing some gas being paid. This is all good stuff. Let's see. Let's wait for the end of it here. Okay, approach D is the last of where Alice sells the data tokens to Bob. We've gotten through D1, D2. Almost done here. D3. We have to wait for confirmations on the Mumbai network, and D4. Great. Okay, so that is step 2. On to step 3. In step 3, Bob consumes the data set, and we are going to run 3 lines of code in our Python console. Bob is going to give his data token to the service to get access to the data set. He can download that file, and then using the OS library for Python, we can actually pipe that out to a file that we're calling file 0. So I'm going to copy these 3 lines of code and paste them into the Python console and hit enter at the end there. Let's see here. Okay, last step here. Great. So we ran the last step, and then here in the steps, you can see that we are going to close our Python console and we are going to the terminal. The first command takes us to the data file directory that has file 0, which we downloaded. And then the second command actually outputs the contents of the file 0 to the terminal output. And then that way we can check that the beginning of the file actually has the data that we expect it to, thus completing the cycle of us downloading the data set from the dataNFT correctly. So in a new tab, I'm going to open up this directory, the data file directory. Actually, I have copied this to my clipboard, but it's pretty easy to navigate there. I'm in my _ project directory, and if I ls here, you'll see the data file directory. So I'm going to cd into that, and then ls again, and you should see file 0. So there's file 0. I'm going to cat file 0. And there's the data. So at the top of the file, you should be able to see the beginning. Yes. So we're seeing Brandon function, 225 instances, number of attributes 2. And we have Brandon function, number of instances is 225, number of attributes is 2. And now under the data decorator, we have -5 and -3.92. And then we have -5 and -3.92. Great. Now this has a lot more appendices, and there are so many possible paths that you can take. Once you have done the main flow, you are ready to build your Python dApp using the Ocean Python library successfully. Give us a subscribe to our channel if you enjoyed what you saw, and leave in the comments some kind of feedback for us to improve, or if you just liked what you saw, and reach out to us on our Discord. Our Discord is where all the magic happens for developers. We get to interact directly with you and answer any questions. So, yeah, happy coding.